The fight for equal rights in the United States has a rich history of advocacy and activism, and the City of Milwaukee Equal Rights Commission has played a vital role in this story. Today, we celebrate the Commission's 75th anniversary, and I salute every member and resident, past and current, who has fought to make equality an American way of life.
The reason I first joined the Equal Rights Commission was so that I could see change within my community.
The Equal Rights Commission started in 1944 under Mayor John Bond as an agency which is very similar to what it is today. It started as a result of issues within the city between the black community and the city leaders. So in the 1940s, the black population started to grow pretty rapidly in the city as a result of job openings being created which weren't there before. Prior to the World War II starting, many of the industries in Milwaukee would not employ blacks, but because of the need for labor during World War II, they started to open up these jobs to blacks. Blacks started to come to Milwaukee in pretty large numbers, and there were conflicts between the black community and the white community immediately as the black population continued to expand. And so the mayor realized that there were issues, and so he was really struggling with what do we do? What do we do about these issues? And so he created the Mayor's Committee on Interracial Relations. And that has gone on to be the foundation of the Equal Rights Commission. So over the course of the next 50 years or so after it was created, it underwent a number of changes in mission, in vision, 6 different name changes over the course of time. And then finally in 1994, it was reassigned the name of the Equal Rights Commission. So that's when the Equal Rights Commission itself first became what it is today. And over the course of the time that the Equal Rights Commission came into being, like many other things, the mission of it changed, the vision of it changed, the powers delegated to the commission changed, people on the commission changed. So a lot of turmoil over the course of time, but they kind of stayed focused on the fact that people in the city were denied rights, and they wanted to protect those rights that were related to employment. Rights related to housing as well became 2 of the main concepts that the Equal Rights Commission worked on.
So it's changed a lot over the course, even of the last 15 years. It initially started out as a body that would take complaints, for a number of issues in the city, but primarily for paid sick leave, and that was going to be its major responsibilities, and we were kind of building the structure around being able to take those complaints.
The commission was much more about discussion and dialogue, having community input, of course, but trying to assess what the community actually needed. I think where we were was not so much more action-oriented and dealing with key issues, passing proclamations, resolutions, or even local legislation. It was much more on getting more people a voice at the table.
Chapter 109 of the Code for the City of Milwaukee is what created the Equal Rights Commission.
I worked with a number of people here at the city to make sure that the Equal Rights Commission had staff so that they could actually have somebody that's full-time, that's carrying this work and helping the commissioners be able to do that outreach and to continue to interface with other governmental agencies.
The City of Milwaukee has a non-discrimination ordinance, and it had for years included gender identity and gender expression, which creates non-discrimination protections for individuals who are transgender or non-binary. And a couple of years ago, the Equal Rights Commission decided it was time to update that ordinance and add to it and bring it into alignment with, again, other cities throughout the country.
The current ERC mission statement is to promote and protect equality, equity, and human rights through education, enforcement, and community engagement. That has been my goal since day one. We're not just here to declare that we are protecting equal rights. We're actually going to do something about it. We're going to be able to investigate, we're going to be able to educate, and then enforce when necessary.
Deb Falk Pallet, chair of the Milwaukee County Commission for Persons with Disabilities, contacted me. I was aware that the bike share program was in existence. However, she raised a very valid point that it was the program itself was not accessible, did not provide access to people with disabilities. We then went before the Equal Rights Commission, and the Commission encouraged us to work together and not necessarily pursue an adversarial position, and was very supportive, encouraged us to form a stakeholder group and iron out all the problems that were in existence and come up with solutions.
We did file an ADA complaint regarding this issue. The Equal Rights Commission within the City of Milwaukee helped us to work together with all partners within Milwaukee to advance this issue and try to figure out how can we be inclusive here in Milwaukee for people with disabilities in our bike share program.
In looking at the issue of inclusive or all-gender restrooms and the possibility of creating some of those spaces in Milwaukee, either in government buildings or throughout the city, the Equal Rights Commission put together a task force of commissioners, individuals from the community, professionals who work with communities that will be most affected by the creation of inclusive restrooms, and other individuals. And we took a look at policies of other cities across the country. We created some proposals and returned those to the Equal Rights Commission, and I think we're waiting for our next green light to continue.
I think one of the most important things that we can do as a city is make sure that everyone knows that they're welcome in the city of Milwaukee. Milwaukee is sending a very strong message, not only to its residents, but to visitors and anyone else, that Milwaukee is a city that embraces all human beings.
I think that it's very fair for the city of Milwaukee to tout itself as doing good, proactive work around diversity and inclusion in the city. And in my experience, it has been the Equal Rights Commission that has been at the leading edge of the work that the city is doing.
One of the things as I look to the future that I want us to do is to continue the work we're doing on the Government Alliance for Racial Equity and Inclusion, to make sure that all parts of city government are there for people of all racial backgrounds and orientations, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to give everyone an opportunity to succeed. That's important to me, and I think that that's something that we can all look forward to working on together.
The vision of the ERC is a Milwaukee where opportunity is abundant and accessible to all. I strongly believe the ERC is the guiding light in helping to make that happen, and just needs to have more people possibly bring up issues because they will work with you.
I am hopeful because I think that the equal rights, the commissioners that I've worked with have been incredibly supportive. They are a diverse group. They represent all walks of life and abilities and disabilities, and that's what we need. You know, people who can understand access and the ADA for the promise that it guaranteed back in 1990.
The people who are most impacted, the people who are discriminated against, have always advocated for these changes, and so their voices need to continue to be part of that conversation. And I think in many ways they need to continue to recognize that this is an effort that will not end maybe in our lifetimes. This is something that we have to pass on to our children and grandchildren so that they can continue to be advocates for their future as well.
The Equal Rights Commission is celebrating 75 years. 75 years of affirming equality, equity, and human rights. I'm so excited to celebrate with the community and to be a part of the Equal Rights Commission during this time, but even more so than the celebration, what's to come.
After 75 years, right, I want the Equal Rights Commission to know that the city of Milwaukee is embracing their platform and their mission, and want to wish them a happy 75th and keep doing the great work that they were designed to do.
Happy anniversary, happy 75th anniversary to the Equal Rights Commission. You represent people that may not have a strong voice, and you provide diversity in our community by ensuring that everyone can be included. So happy anniversary to you.
Equal Rights Commission, you don't look 75 years old. You look great. You're doing a wonderful, wonderful job. Keep up the great work.